Okay, good morning everyone. Many thanks for inviting me here today. My name is Joanna Muse and I work for the Scottish Environment Protection Agency, and I'm here today to share our experiences of delivering a national environmental system. Let's see if I work this. No. If I can make the slides work. There we go. And really just to kind of share our experiences in how we managed the project, how we set up the project, we planned for it, we delivered, to optimize policy uptake. And that's really, really important when you're thinking about the success of your project, but also delivering a project for afterlife and carrying on what you set out to do. Ooh. Okay, thank you. Oh, this just on here? Ah, oh, this one here. Okay. Okay. Somebody working on a technology project doesn't even understand how to work the presentation. Okay, so before we started, we really wanted to understand what the policy landscape was. And really that was really to influence and drive what we wanted to set out to do, and also to identify the policy landscape that impacted on a whole range of public sector partners, because partnership and bringing partners on board was really important to the project. So publishing environmental data was a hugely significant policy driver, and as a public sector we were really driving forward to opening up access to data, increasing data sharing and reuse of data, and making data more available for policy, decision-making and innovation. So the big drivers for us were obviously the EU Inspire Directive for spatial data, the reuse of public sector information, access to information, public access to information and open data strategies. As Scottish Environment Protection Agency, under the Environment Act 1995, we have a requirement to publish a State of the Environment report, and that was the kind of one of the biggest drivers for us. We wanted to move away from a published, static, point-in-time publication, such as this, to a more dynamic, online, interactive view of environmental data and state environment reporting. We also wanted to work with the European Environment Agency through the EIONet network to work on a concept of the shared environmental information system and developing a national environmental information system portal, which would help our environmental reporting obligations to Europe, but also making all of that data we report to Europe more widely accessible to a wider range of users. We wanted to make sure policy development in Scotland and at European level was very robust, it was very strong, so we wanted a really strong evidence base to underpin policy making. And there was a big shift towards digital transformation, publishing things online through more digital products, working together, sharing information and data, and also publishing that users want, not just what we think people want, so very much engaging with data users. The challenge, obviously we wanted to make sure we understood the challenge and wanted to make sure the challenges we identified were the challenges, again, that cut across many of our partners. The problem was there was lots of data out there, but it was coming from lots of different sources. People didn't know where to go to find it. It was in different formats. You couldn't compare it to identify common environmental challenges, and there was no one view of Scotland's environment. There was also, at the time the project started, we put our application in 2010, a massive pace of technology shift. So, use of mobile devices, tablets, and digital technology to find and access environmental information. So publications were kind of old school. We needed to move with the technology. And with that, it was an increasingly messy, cluttered landscape of information, online information. People were trying to find information, but they didn't know, can I trust it? Is it up to date? Is it authoritative? So what we wanted to develop as a project was an inclusive partnership. We wanted to bring together not only people that publish data, but also those people that use data. We need to understand how people use the data to be able to ensure we can publish the information they need. As I mentioned before, we wanted to create a national environmental information system, and that's very much about data publishers and owners manage at source. You publish once, you use lots of times. You can easily access data for both European reporting obligations, but also for decision making and policy making for a wide range of uses. And that data is also available to the public. So think about increasing transparency and openness and confidence. If the public can see the data that's being used for decision making and policy, they are confident of the decisions that are being made. As mentioned before, we wanted to improve policy through better understanding the environment, so that's through better evidence and data, and provide a high quality online interactive resource for the public. As I mentioned before, partnership is very much at the heart of what we wanted to do, and bringing together some key environmental organisations in Scotland to identify what the challenges were and identify solutions. So that's shared solutions to common challenges, meant that we could collaborate and co-develop and deliver things that were fit for purpose, they are needed and they are owned. We had a key agency governance group, and that was at director and chief executive level that provided oversight and strategic direction of what we did. We then had a range of multidisciplinary working groups, that's bringing people from different organisations with different skills to understand and share knowledge. And so together we could achieve more as we could ever do as individuals, and the LIFE funding actually gave us more space to be creative, to be innovative, whereas individually we couldn't have afforded to do by ourselves. These are just some of the examples of the various partnership sessions that we held. There's lots of workshops, lots of stakeholder events, lots of post-its, just here in the top corner in terms of getting feedback, bringing that information together and identifying what people wanted to do. Communication and iteration was hugely important. So 4 years in the space of this project, a lot can change and a lot can happen both in terms of policy changes, political changes and priorities, and also very much technology changes. So we needed to keep up to date with what was happening to make sure what we were delivering was actually needed and relevant, whilst making sure we were still delivering our LIFE project objectives. So we had weekly meetings with all the working groups. Again, there were task finish groups, and that was really to keep on top of what had we delivered, where were we going next, are there any things we needed to be aware of. Monthly meetings with the partnership governance group to basically report progress, understand risks and issues and any key dependencies of what change might occur. And what was very important was an annual review. So yes, take stock, what were our achievements, but also learn our lessons, how can we improve for the next year, and forward plan. And all this helps you to respond to changes as you go through the project. So what did we actually deliver? You can read more about the project in this document here on page 14, but it was a shared data portal, and the partnership was key to that being a shared data portal. It's a trusted gateway. I mentioned before that people looking for information, they don't necessarily know where to look. They're looking across lots of different websites. So it's a gateway to information, and it's a trusted gateway to information. Not only can you look for data, but also the tools we've developed help you understand, analyse and interpret data. More data doesn't actually mean more knowledge. You have to turn that data into something to be able to understand it. So it's a gateway drawing in data from multiple sources. It's an open access to data via maps and data analysis tools. We signpost to more detailed information on specialist topics, and we're trying to engage with the citizens in terms of understanding the value of data and action to protect the environment. So what I want to do is just fly through some examples of where we have policy uptake. And this is where we've opened out data that's normally collected and reporting for European environmental reporting obligations and directive implementation. But by opening out that data, we're making it more available to policymakers and decision makers within Scotland. And just to I suppose, be clear, in terms of the portal, we don't hold any data. So at the point of any of these tools look for data, it pulls in open data at the point of request. So there's no worries about different versions of data. It's always the most up-to-date version that you're looking at. So there's lots of confidence in what you can see. So as mentioned before, we wanted to move away from a published document for the State of Environment Report. So we now have an online page, very much reduced in terms of content, but you can click down into detail if you like. You have five chapters, 27 topics, and what we do is provide a web page with summary information, links to the relevant data that underpins that information. But the key thing is this was a multi-agency view of Scotland's environment. So all of these various organisations were involved in forming that view, whereas before it was just a Scottish Environment Protection Agency view of the environment. We also wanted to make that data more accessible to the public. So we've created new pages called Our Environment. We've got more videos, infographics, summary data views. We've got links to useful contacts if people want to find out more information. And also we've got greater flexibility in terms of introducing new topics beyond what is the kind of fixed State of the Environment report. The Inspire Directive was one of our biggest drivers at the point we started out on the project. And that's really to open up access to spatial data for a wide range of for citizen access, for policy making, but also for European directive reporting. And our map is one of our greatest used tools. So the concept of Scotland's Environment Web is you don't have to know who publishes data to find what you're looking for. It's one place you can search for information by a dataset title, by a keyword, by a task that you might be doing, or by the publisher. You can view your data on the map, and by clicking on any one of these points or a polygon that's shown, it will provide you with more information about that data set. You can find out who publishes the data and also go to more detailed metadata. And metadata is information about the data, and that's very important because what this does is connect. I want a view of the data, and now I want to use the data for my own purposes. So you need to understand the licenses that it's published under, when it was created, when it was last updated, who publishes it, and actually accessing the data service to use in your own mapping applications. So this is all about connectivity for the user. The Water Framework Directive, so applications, data visualization applications that were published for the Scotland's Environment Web project down in the bottom corner, basically turning tens of thousands of rows of raw data into very graphic maps and graphs and charts were also used for our Water Framework Directive River Basin Management Plan, so the second round of River Basin Management Plans. And what these applications do is they allow you to summarize many sampling parameters into high level, high, good, moderate, poor, or bad status. You can also compare different areas, so at local authority level, or catchment area, or river body, water body level. And you can very visually, as you see down the bottom, see it's very coloured in terms of a very quick visual understanding of what's going on in your local area. And this information has been really widely used by students and researchers and local authorities for local state of environment reporting. And also these tools get students engaged in data analytics and statistics, so they're actually using environmental data but for different purposes. They're engaging in environmental issues just by their interest in data analysis. A picture speaks 1,000 words, and the Bathing Waters Directive was published lots of different samples, quite dry, quite hard to understand, but again, these pictures and graphs that you can export in graphs and presentations are very much add greater value for the data. Habitats Directive, Habitat Map of Scotland, you can now view on Scotland's Environment Web, and you can actually, on the map, over 200 different data sets. You can combine any different data sets. You can view Habitat Map of Scotland along with any other environmental data set, but also creating a web page to try and explain and provide context to understanding of the data and what you're looking at. Also creating web pages to allow users to flow through high-level summary information around ecosystem health indicators used for biodiversity strategy reporting, down to more detailed data views in terms of what's going on in the local area. Identifying Natura 2000 sites, so special areas of conservation, Scottish protection areas, and again, finding out who, at the point you need to find out more, who publishes the data, Scottish Natural Heritage. Again, data visualization tools where you can, for the European Pollution Release and Transfer Register, so this is our formal data visualization tool, but you can also view the same data on the Scotland's Environment Map, so if you want to find out what's going on in your local area, you can search the same data, and again, click on a point, we provide summary information, and at the point you want to find out more, you click on that, and it will go to SEPA's website, and you can find out about a particular issue that's being reported. Waste statistics, circular economy, and again, what we're trying to do is when you're publishing these data visualization applications, we're also encouraging the publication of a case study to try and again bring the data alive and help people understand what it is and what it's about. land use data, so land data used for land use strategy assessment, and also what we're moving into now is data for decision making. It's very much a site-specific search, so what's in an area of interest? Do I make an application for grant funding or for a permitted development? What do I need to know? Who do I need to speak to before I enter that process? And also we're creating a network of trusted data sources. So we've also developed for the Environmental Noise Directive, Scotland's Noise, and that's data being used by local authorities for their noise action plans. And also you can download the data. So project results, very quickly. Basically we have, because of the partners involved, there is confidence that this is a trusted data portal. You can access trusted evidence base. It's a gateway to search and discover, so you only have to go to one place to be able to search data from lots of different organisations, so it saves a huge amount of time and effort. As I mentioned before, we pull in data directly at point of source, so you can be confident that it's the most up-to-date data. Turning data into information, as I mentioned before, what we're trying to do is transform raw data into a format that makes it easy to view and access, which means data is much more widely accessible to a much greater audience. Therefore, it's being used to influence new policy in new ways and engage with citizens and researchers. Just a final slide on by optimising policy uptake and engaging with the policymakers and a whole range of stakeholders throughout your process. We're now in our third year of Afterlife funding. We now have a team of 5 permanent staff of developers and manager. We're still carrying on with our partnership meetings. The partners are still informing what we're doing, and we now have extended membership to other new organisations. We're seen as a key delivery portal under the Scottish Digital Transformation Strategy, so the Environmental Hub. And now what we're doing, this product has now been embedded into core business. So our partners publish data, but at the point they want people to look at the data and view it, they signpost to Scotland's Environment Web. And we have the ongoing co-development of shared products. So we're looking at products to inform e-planning and searches on the land for pre-application, data for strategic environmental assessment. We want to develop a data discovery catalogue, so finding data not just by environmental theme, but by task. So I am this person doing this thing, these are the data sets you need. And we've also been invited by the European Commission to contribute to their project on streamlining environmental reporting as a dissemination of best practice. So there is life after life, and policy uptake is kind of key in engaging with the policymakers and stakeholders into achieving that. So please take a look at the website, get in touch with any questions. Always happy to take feedback on board and let us know what you think.
Hvala. Imate li možda pitanja? Ima Tonka.
Well, life is a lot about actually monitoring. We don't talk a lot about how you monitor your project impacts. My question is actually, how do you do it? Probably it goes automatically over the website. You can see who is looking for the information or which topics they're interested in. And
yes, I mean, that's very important. And I think as agencies, what I've really learned about this project is, by just putting data out there doesn't mean to say people will come and use it. So you have to have a very clear use case. So you have to know who's using it, why they're using it, so you actually can provide valuable data. So you have to go out and speak to people and understand what they're doing. And we did a lot of research on the website in terms of how people were using different data products, were they staying on long enough. We had some tools to find out where, you set them a task to find out where they were going. So we've gradually been implementing improvements to make that data more available to find. So it's not just about your Google Analytics, your visitors to the site, but also what people are doing once they're on the site. And it's all about continual improvement. So you develop something, test it with people, go back, make changes, go out and retest it. But yeah, there's a whole range of different metrics, especially for digital information, in terms of how that's being used. But understanding your users and how they use data is hugely important.
Imam još jedno pitanje. Tonka.
Thank Thank you very much. I would like to ask a quick question. Do you publish area data about protected species on your website?
Yes, so we have protected nature sites, and there's also, we have an associated website called National Biodiversity Network Atlas for Scotland. So that's one of I talked about the group of, these group of websites here. So it's the NBN Atlas Scotland. So that's more about species and habitats reporting. If you want to look at particular sites in terms of habitat sites, then you can look them on Scotland's Environment Web. So for us, though, it's about how you look at various, how you connect to various information. We also have information on protected nature sites on Scotland's Environment Web. Again, if you want to find out more, we click to the species data on NBN Scotland. What was quite interesting with the National Biodiversity Network portal was people wanted to get down to understand where various species were in Scotland, but then there's also an element of protected species and the resolution of data, so, and how much information you give to people to understand, but then also you want to protect where these species are. So if you want to find out more, I can certainly put you in contact with a colleague who's been looking at that. If you come see me in the break, I can take your contact details and pass them on. Okay.